A really interesting debate has sparked up with the release of Midnight. It's a really complex topic that I think gets even more complicated the more we think about it. It involves flying. Is flying a positive or negative for World of Warcraft? And I know a lot of people have strong opinions on this topic. Believe me, I'm in the same camp. I get it. We've had this debate for ages now, but I do think with Midnight and just how well designed the world is overall, it's a really good opportunity to have this conversation again. Hello, everybody. It's your boy Jmulls. And should our wings be clipped? Flying is like one of those Division 1 topics that just brings out those strong reactions in people, right? If you want to draw battle lines, you want to make things polarized in an instant, ask a group of people how they feel about flying in World of Warcraft. But I do think this is one of the most important and also interesting conversations to have for modern World of Warcraft, with Midnight especially. Now, for those who don't know, or those who aren't terminally online, there's been like this wave of people advocating for experiencing the story of Midnight and the leveling of Midnight on a ground mount, not taking to the skies, not flying about the place, grounded, much like classic WoW. One of the best elements of Midnight is just how gorgeous the world is to explore. It's like every zone is a banger. I may not like the story of the Harendir, but the zone Harendar is gorgeous. Suleiman is just like an absolute delight for anyone that has a fascination for troll stuff in WoW. And like the Blood Elf aesthetic has always been one of my favorite aesthetics in all of World of Warcraft, so Eversong's just an absolute delight for me. But because of flying, a lot of people notice, well, you don't really experience the world in a particularly immersive way, including while leveling. You just fly everywhere now. And like, yeah, it's gorgeous, don't get me wrong. Like, it is absolutely gorgeous, but you're not experiencing the intentional game design of the zones. And I know that can sound a little bit pretentious, right? Like, let's not kid ourselves. But I do think when it comes to like an RPG, stuff like this really truly matters. The topography of the world, the things that populate the world, getting from point A to B and experiencing the journey along the way. These things add up with each other, where over time, they produce a whole greater than the sum of its parts. And just like in that brief little stint of me yapping, look at all the different locations and the aesthetics we had experienced flying across this little small part of Eversong. But for the most part, is anyone really experiencing WoW like that? Sure, some people, don't get me wrong, but I feel for a lot of people, oh, I want to do this world quest. I don't particularly want to because I don't need the reward. But imagine my weapons were trash, and I'm like, ooh, I want this weapon. Let me fly over here. If I was somewhat competent at this game, let's fly over here, defeat these 15 shadecasters, and then go on about my day. Let's go do that. Sure, I'm a survival hunter, so I have my immediate win button. So long as I'm not rooted, there we go. And things just kinda die. And because I'm a modern WoW player, let's group everything up and just kill them all down with insane AoE. Also, I'm a survival hunter. And there we go, got my last mob, and I'm done here if this one mob wants to leave me alone. Okay, there we go, I've got my reward, and now I'm no longer going to interface with this part of the world. Oh, I want some Voidlight Marl because I want decor for my house. Let me just go all the way over there. I am now ignoring everything on the ground to simply fly to the objective. Now, for a lot of people, they will like that because modern World of Warcraft is a very objective-focused game. Unlike classic WoW, you don't have all these different like RPG elements that you're like juggling all the time. You're not dealing with like the topography and experiencing the open world of World of Warcraft in that kind of way. And also, like, let's just face it, for quite a few people out there, we've played World of Warcraft for ages. It's like we kind of know this world. Even when it comes to like a new WoW expansion, yeah, the world can be very gorgeous and pretty, but we've kind of been here, done that before in some ways. People just kind of want to get on about their day. They want to get to the content that they're really here for. They want to get into Mythic Plus. They want to get into high-end raids. They want to get into Nightmare Prey. They want to get into delves, if you may. They want to get out of these earth grab totems I keep getting caught in. They want to do the activity in the world that they went there to do, and then they want to leave to go to the next objective. A lot of people will go, well, what's the problem with that? And honestly, it's not really a problem. That is just how modern World of Warcraft is designed. It's not classic WoW. The these are two completely different game states. That is not like some surprise or a new revelation for anybody. But while I do agree, flying does kind of like detract from the RPG feel of the world, from the immersive element of the world. I agree with that assertion. I do. But I don't think game-wide you could simply just remove flying and then make a better game by simply doing that. It's not like a one-size-fits-all solution. I think when it comes to like the intentionality, the slow pace of classic WoW, that works because you have all these different like elements and mechanics working together that creates a rewarding and satisfying gameplay loop. Not for everyone, but there are a lot of people out there that love that style of game. It is, I think of it like this, that is the version of World of Warcraft that made World of Warcraft so insanely popular all those years ago, and I don't think game design like that necessarily ages. There's a reason classic has always been kind of popular. That's not a knock on retail WoW. I love retail WoW. It's the version of WoW that I personally play the most because I want new content. But I also enjoy like overall class design. Is it perfect? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. They need to always buff the character that I'm playing, absolutely. But it's fun to press my buttons. When I do Mythic Plus, or I try the raids, or I do delves, and I do pray, I'm enjoying my time with the game. That is a style of gameplay that I do find satisfying and engaging. And yeah, for a lot of people, myself included, if instead of like doing the thing that I'm out in the world to do, you ground me and force me to walk from point A to B, you're not making the experience inherently more engaging. All you're doing is extending the playtime because now I have to like auto walk from point A to B because there's not enough systems in place in World of Warcraft to create a satisfying gameplay loop between point A and B. All you're doing in this like theoretical world where we remove flying from modern World of Warcraft would be extending the time between the bits of game that I want to play. Whereas with flying, we go from point A to point B in a far quicker time. So you're keeping me engaged with the product more. Maybe a short experience, but it's a brighter experience. That's because just like that's how modern World of Warcraft is designed. I have my fair share of issues with Midnight. I've not been subtle about that. But the design of the world, Eversong, Zulaman, Harandar, Voidstorm, my god, these locations are absolutely gorgeous, and it's some of their best work in my opinion. And yeah, I do think it's a bit of a shame that the intended game state for World of Warcraft is to simply fly over most of that and ignore it. But like I said before, I don't think you can just simply ground people and then make the game better. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think it's that simple. And I do think if you just simply ground people and at least for leveling prevent them from being able to fly, it doesn't make the game better for the vast majority of people out there because the game wouldn't have been designed for that. The game is designed in such a way to funnel you from point A to point B. Do this objective, get to objective B as quickly as possible, and then do objective B. Then rinse, repeat all the way down to Z. All those RPG mechanics that World of Warcraft used to really bring to the forefront of the experience. Eating and drinking out in the world, class trainers, weapon skills, actually caring about the armor stat for your gear, worrying because you see one really cool looking rare unit over there and you're like, oh my god, I might need to get a few extra people to go do this. Like every now and then, depending upon the gear scaling on the game, let's be fair here, you might run into that issue, but it's far more prevalent in older versions of World of Warcraft because the game is designed for those mechanics to have a role and a time to shine because there's enough time for those elements to all really feel noticeable. In modern WoW, it's so lightning quick. You go out to a certain location, group a bunch of enemies together, and then just kill them all. It's hard to design RPG mechanics for a game state where it just feels far more efficient than anything to kind of just ignore them because you don't really need to pay attention to them. The game is not simply asking you to be engaged with an individual scenario back to back to back to back to back over a long enough period of time for those mechanics to be noticeable. And I think that's why flying is so prevalent now and why it's kind of so, I don't know if the word beloved is the right word, but so ingrained in the modern retail player psyche because the fun of modern World of Warcraft comes from doing specific pieces of content, doing this quest objective, doing this delve, doing this dungeon, doing this raid. Getting there is no longer part of the journey. It's no longer part of the pie of the engagement with World of Warcraft. And if you force people to just extend that portion of their game time, you're not making it a more fun and engaging experience. You're just like, you ever like watch a Twitch stream and like the ad breaks, but it still kind of shows the ad break and it's just like a blank screen for a bit and you're sitting there like like waiting for this to end. It's like the game design version of that. And while I do think World of Warcraft needs more RPG mechanics, I think you can't really insert stuff like that. You can't remove something like flying and get people to engage with the world in a more meaningful way without also doing the work to the game state to make that feel rewarding and to make that feel engaging and fun. You can't just flick a switch and everything's changed. It's far more complicated than that. And in the future, I definitely want to do a video on the like RPG side of World of Warcraft and what I think Blizzard should do in order to make it feel more like an RPG again, which is what my preferred game state personally. I think flying is just like a symptom of a larger, we could call it an issue. I don't think everyone would necessarily call it an issue. I would. It depends on your personal preference though. What I don't think they should do is just make retail WoW Classic WoW again. I want them to do Classic Plus and then just extend that game state through that apparatus and keep retail being its own separate thing. But I do think they need to kind of like rein in the pace of play for retail WoW a bit. That doesn't just mean make things take longer overall. Poggers. If we're extending the time things take, you also have to make them more engaging to make up for that. It's not a simple change. It's not a simple fix. But I do think, I won't dwell on this for too long, I do think Blizzard are like acknowledge this is a bit of an issue, and I think they're trying to find ways to incorporate more RPG elements into the game and more ways to actively engage with the world. I think Prey as a system is a great example of this, and I think over time we'll see how overall sentiment is in regards to that system. And I think things like choosing the combination of Loa you want to worship in Zulaman for a unique buff, or the Void Forge in the Void Storm, having like this very small like talent tree of different nodes you can pick up for buffs in that zone, or just overall if you get the trinket from there. Those are elements that show me Blizzard wants to reintroduce RPG elements into World of Warcraft. They're just trying to figure out how to get them to work, and I think they're going to consistently run into this problem to where the game is so lightning quick nowadays, they just don't really fit. It's like if you don't want to pay attention to the Void Storm Void Forge or like the Loa in Zulaman, you can ignore them because you're going to do so much damage. Season 1 just came out. Our gear is about to become nutty. We're going to do so much damage relatively soon to where like the benefits of those systems aren't going to really even be noticeable unless you're like a spreadsheet nerd. That's the problem I think they're running into, and that's why I think you can't just simply remove flying. It's like a load-bearing wall. You can't just take that out and expect everything to still work. And also, to be fair, if you really want to experience Midnight's story without flying, you can do that. That's like one of the things that's been going around. People just choosing not to fly during the leveling for Midnight and being like, wow, this world is so gorgeous and pretty and well designed. It's kind of a shame we just fly over it. And well, yeah, I do think that's a bit of a shame. And for some people, it'll be absolutely fine to just play the leveling of Midnight without a flying mount. I think for the vast majority of people, the game's just not designed in a way to where that would be particularly engaging, or just it would be more frustrating than anything. I totally get that passions can be inflamed on this topic, but I think it's such a great little discussion for overall game design. And I think the conversation about like just where do we go from here is one that is worth having. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what you think World of Warcraft should do for the future. Do you think they should design the game for a flightless world again, for flightless while only leveling, or just kind of keep it as is, flying all the time? Personally, I'm looking forward to The Last Titan just because I want Storm Peaks again. I want to fly through those mountains. Because when flying is used as an actual game mechanic, love it. And while you're down there, want to stay tuned for future videos, you should leave a like and subscribe for future World of Warcraft coverage, because we have so much more to talk about, especially with the launch of Season 1, which I'm looking forward to getting into on stream later today. And if you want to look ahead for the future of World of Warcraft in patch 12.0.5, well, we found out quite a bit, and it's looking like a pretty decent patch. Check out this video to learn more right here. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!